All right. So a couple of words about myself at the beginning. So as said, my name's Timo Stark. I'm working as a product management engineer for NGINX for almost 2 years right now. Before that, I was working as a sysadmin. I think that today's name is DevOps engineer, something like that in the automotive industry. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to be here as I'm using Cake-PHP for a while. It was the first PHP framework I was using long time ago. And yeah, so things come back, and now here I'm pretty proud to present some stuff about NGINX and Cake-PHP together. So combining two things I'm using for a long time. And so what we are going to do today is I want to introduce something that is not absolutely hot off the press, as NGINX Unit is around for a while, but not really used by many other engineers or developers in the PHP community. And we will straight dive into a demo environment, and we do something on the system, not on PowerPoint. So let me know if you have any questions in the chat or in the Q&A section on Slack. Happy to answer them as they come in. So basically, what is NGINX Unit? It is something that will deliver your application code, and we will define this something in a minute. And yeah, as you already know, you can have different setups to deliver your PHP applications. You can have NGINX with PHP-FPM. You can have Apache with an PHP-FPM, or the old version of mod.php and such things. You can have some built-in app servers kind of built in PHP itself. A lot of different versions how to operate, run, host your PHP code. Personally, I was using NGINX and PHP-FPM for almost all my life. And migrated to Unit almost 2 years ago from all my NGINX PHP-FPM installations to NGINX Unit. So that's why I want to take you with on this journey, what happened the last 2 years and where we are today. Here, one thing about NGINX Unit, what it is, to have a better understanding about what's in the next 30 minutes. So NGINX Unit is a cloud native web and application server. So that's why we have the name Unit. It combines both features into a single product, the app server feature as well as a proxy and web server feature in a single product that supports at the moment 8 different languages. One is PHP, other one is Python, Perl, Java, Kotlin is supported, Go is supported, JavaScript with Node.js is supported. And all those 8 different languages at the moment are configurable within single REST API. So the application web proxy server settings in Unit are configurable within REST endpoint with an API in JSON format. All the configuration changes can be made with 0 downtime. So you can adapt your changes, your configuration without like shutting down your application. And on top of that, we have the production grade security features we already have in our NGINX web and proxy server. You can encrypt your traffic with TLS. So HTTPS is fully supported. And I will come to a great feature in a minute. What about what's special about HTTPS and this whole thing. A couple of other security features are we have rootfs feature, process isolation. We will see the process isolation feature in the demo, but it wouldn't. So I can talk 30 minutes or more just about security. So that's why I try to focus on a high level introduction of Unit. But make sure if you have any questions, paste it in the chat in the Q&A section. Let's hop on the timeline real quick. Most of you are familiar with NGINX, so that's why I put this in context here. NGINX Plus as the commercial subscription, and NGINX Unit released 0.1 back in 2018. That's where I started using it. And now we are in 2021. NGINX Unit 1.25 is the current release. Next one is 1.26. It's on the horizon with a lot of new crazy cool features. But I do want to stop here for a long time. I really want to have time for the demo. As said, NGINX Unit can be used with older / traditional languages. They are around for a long time, like PHP, Python, Ruby, Perl, and as well as with those new fancy cloud native languages like Go, Node.js, JavaScript. All of those are supported at the moment. And how does NGINX look like? Let me jump to this slide first, and then we go back and see the configuration syntax. And what I've just mentioned is this HTTPS feature we have. So NGINX Unit combines the layer 4 network stack as well as the application web server stack in a single product asset. So that means we can configure in NGINX Unit a listener, production grade HTTP or HTTPS listener. The certificates and the encryption will be handled on the listener level. Then we pass the traffic through en route if configured. We will see this in a second, or directly to the application. So the application can be a PHP app, a Ruby app, Python app, Node.js, Go, or we can serve static files on disk like images, CSS, JavaScript, or we can use the upstream mechanism. So that means Unit can act as a reverse proxy, and we can just forward traffic that comes in directly to a defined upstream target, similar to NGINX you're already familiar with. So let me go to the previous one to dig a little bit into the configuration. So as said, it's a REST API that's configurable with a JSON payload. So that's how it looks like. We can define listeners like port 8081. We can pass to an application object directly or to a route object. And an application object can look like this. But I would like to show you this in the demo environment. So that's where I'm hopping into right now, into the demo environment. Let me reshare the screen. We go in here, desktop number 2. All right, now you should be able to see my VM. All right, as said. So NGINX Unit is already installed. Let me hop into the README quick. This one is already uploaded to a GitHub repository. I will share the link in a second. I hope it is big enough so you can read it properly. So what steps do we need to follow to make this work with CakePHP? Why is that thing not scrolling? There you go. All right, so first we can install Composer to download the Cake packages, but let's dive into the unit world first. So I assume that you're already familiar with NGINX and PHP-FPM and how that setup worked before Unit, right? So you had to install NGINX, then you had to install NGINX or the PHP-FPM, then you have to configure PHP-FPM. We saw a couple of code snippets in Joe's talk previously with this pool configuration, the www pool and stuff like that. And that is all not necessary anymore. So what you can do is you can apt install, given you're on a Debian-based system, apt install Unit and Unit PHP, which is the language module for Unit and PHP, and it interacts in a similar way than the FPM, talking to the PHP server API. And to make NGINX Unit work with Cake-PHP or vice versa, we have to install a couple of dependencies like mbstring, intil, DOM, MySQL, and SQLite 3 for the debug kit. So that's basically all you have to do install-wise on the system. That's literally all. There's no other configuration needed than the configuration for the application itself. And what we do here is, again, we have those three main points here. We have a listener that tells us, all right, this is the production port 80. Then we have a route, CakePHP, and the route object or the possibilities you have with routes are huge. I am thinking about doing another YouTube video on my channel in a couple of weeks just about the route object, because you can do a lot of things here with the match object. You can match URIs, you can match headers, host names, your IP addresses, cookies, all that stuff, and then invoke actions. To keep it simple here, we have this CakePHP route that matches first. Is the user trying to access an PHP file directly? So then we pass the traffic to our application target direct. If not, we have another one here to say, look on disk and try to find the file. It's similar to the try files directive in NGINX. If you cannot find the file, then send the traffic to the index target of our CakePHP application. And that is how it looks like. We have the type is configured to PHP. We have a run user and a group. Then we have the process settings, similar to the settings in our pool configuration in PHP-FPM. When we have our targets, we have direct and index. And index means like send any request to the index.php file in the configured directory. So then in this case, I have an environment configured with the security salt, debug flag to true and false, the database, DSN, and this is special to PHP in Unit. You can define your PHP INI settings on the fly. Like, do you want to expose the PHP version, yes or no? What's your variable order? What's your memory limit? And so admin cannot be changed during runtime, and the user settings can be changed during runtime. Those are the two big differences here. And that's basically all you have to do. And what I do for my cake applications is I have this template sitting around and like adapt it when I need it. And the good thing is I can use NGINX Unit on my developer environment, on my production servers, and it's all the same. It looks all the same thing. So, but to get started with our demo, I have a little game here for you, a little because I have something cool for you today. So in the chat, if you're familiar with this page, what is the error on that page? There is something that is unusual on this page. Normally it's looking different. Let me see. All right, Mark ruled it. It's the apple, right? So let's click on that. Awesome. All right, cool. We found a present. And so the present is that I got a first sneak of our unit CLI that's not even released yet. It will come with one of the next releases. But I'm absolutely happy to present you the basic functionality of the unit CLI today. And so yeah, that's why. Let's dig into this one. All right, as said, this is basically our manifest file, our JSON file. And so let's see what we can do. Before we dive into the unit CLI part, I will show the current way of doing it. It's all based on curl, right? So what we can do is we can type curl, and then we specify a Unix socket. And that one is var run, and then we have control unit sock, and then we have 127.1/config. Sorry. I think it's dash, isn't it? Yep. So This is the normal way of doing it. So that means we have curl-based commands where you can dig into, and as it is a JSON object, we can say config. And if you want to see all the listeners you have, you can type listeners and then get all the listeners. And if you want to see all the applications, you can do this and can see all the configured applications, environment, and all this stuff, right? So with the unit CLI, and this is pretty neat. This is hot out of the press. It's not even released yet. You can type unit and then type /config, right? And this will do the exact same thing, but without the whole curl stuff, right? So it's like wrapping everything inside a neat CLI. And another thing is you can do sudo unit and then edit with vi, for example, and then you can edit some stuff in here. You can write it. It's asking if you want to replace it. No, I don't want to replace it. And that's basically it. So this thing will come with one of the next releases to make it easier for you to configure the NGINX Unit configuration files. All right. So how that works. So what can we do here? So first of all, we have C localhost. So we're running on port 80, and we have this little sneak here. And this is something I want to show you. So we want to see our routes. And that looks familiar. So this is from our manifest file parts here. And then we have here, like, I want to share the sneak folder from my documents folder if the URI matches sneak. So that's basically how simple that is. I can simply configure that in here. And the absolutely great thing is that already mentioned, the listeners, this whole network stack is decoupled from the routes and the applications. That means you can configure the network part of NGINX Unit, like port 80, you can enable TLS, and it's all the same manner, all the same behavior, independent of the programming language you're using. That said, is that you can configure a listener for port 80 and 443, enable TLS, upload your certificates. So you can upload the TLS certificates directly to Unit. We have an SNI support built in. So that means we can read the SNI header from the incoming request and choose the right certificate from a given pool to encrypt the traffic. And that is decoupled from the application stack. So that means it doesn't matter if you use a PHP app, Node.js, or Java, Kotlin application, or Python Flask application, the configuration of your listeners, of the entry point, will always be the same experience. It doesn't matter what kind of application you're running. All right, so now let's try to reconfigure, for example, the unit configuration at runtime. What does it mean to do it? So we already saw that we have this runtime configuration with our PHP processes. So that means we can do like ps-elf, and then we grab for unit. I hope that is big enough. So we can see here we have our processes running for cake test. So now let's reconfigure that. Let's say we watch that for a second, and then so we have our process running. Let's make this a little bit smaller. I know it's hard to read, but all right. So this is absolutely new thing. So I hope it will work. Demo gods be with me. Yes. All right, that's working. Okay, so we type here applications, and then we have CakePHP as an app. All right, should put root in front of it. Okay, so and now we want to configure our processes environment. Okay, and now we want to have the spare up to 10. So we type spare, edit, processes I want to do vi 5. Let's type in 10, save and quit. I want to override the existing configuration. Yes, enter. And as you can see, we're spinning up more processes and without having a downtime at the application level. And we can do the same thing with our environment. So given that we have our Cake-PHP application and we want to have Cake-PHP, and we have our environment. Yes. So then we want to change the debug level, for example. We can type in debug, edit. Yes, I want to be root and I want to use vi. So let's do this false. Save and exit. Yes, I want to override. Go in here and then let's go back to our home page, and that should do, yes, that should print that page. So if you want to change that back, we can do the exact same thing again. We can do edit. Yes. Sorry guys, that's like my fault not having a correct configured environment. And we want to see our debug mode again. Just want to replace, reconfiguration done, reload, and there we go again. So that's the main idea behind all that, is that we have this REST-based configuration syntax, so different from a regular configuration with files where you have to SCP in a system and do configuration changes. And I really enjoyed the last 2 talks from Chris and Joe about like automate everything, try to like make everything as code. And this is exactly an approach to do this, as I can have my whole web application proxy server configuration as a JSON file that can be applied in a REST manner from quite any pipeline tool you can imagine. And that means I can tie this manifest file to my application. I can try to use environment and then replacement like Ansible to put those manifests on the machine, and to have like my secrets and stuff like substituted with tools like Ansible here. And what I really loved or still love about NGINX Unit is that with this routes and this option and possibilities I have to configure routes and listeners over here, I can mock a lot of things on my demo and test environment locally. So given I have on production, I have a proxy server that's having a special URI or a special host name and things like that, and I want to mock this behavior, I can simply add a route to NGINX Unit and can like have a static JSON file on disk that will act as a mock for an REST call with XHR or some stuff like that. So that is really, really powerful about Unit. And as said, there is a lot to discover on unit.nginx.org. Especially the whole TLS thing is got a lot of improvements during the last 2 releases. So during last 123 to 124 and 125, we added a lot of new features here. For example, this multi-certificate support with SNI. You can now define TLS versions and things like that. Another thing is the route object. It's very powerful. So you have like a ton of options you can resolve, like from URI arguments to host names to cookie values, whatever. So that means it gives you a flexibility to route traffic into the right direction before it hits your application code. And we have under the how-to section down here, we have this Cake-PHP example. It's similar to that what you have on the install section on the website, but I shared my manifest file on GitHub, and I'll make sure I paste the link into the CakeFest channel later, so you can grab it from there. As the manifest file over here has this settings with the processes, the run user, which is the process isolation task I already mentioned. So that means you can see here the processes are owned by an run user, not by the main user or even root. And that makes it very easy for you as an administrator to configure different applications and configure different run users per application, just with a single API call. Make sure the user exists on the system, and then you define it inside of the unit configuration. You apply the configuration, and the process will be owned by a run user, not by the main unit user or root. So that's here. We saw the processes, and here are the production grade variables we need: the security salt database, DSN, and security salt, and a couple of admin options. So I'm looking forward to maybe update the install guide on the Cake website, as well as on our NGINX Unit how-to for Cake-PHP, to suit a little bit better into the Cake world, especially with the environment variables and things like the admin section. And yeah, so I have another slide on PowerPoint. So let me share that one and hop over there. As said, we have unit.nginx.org for all things NGINX Unit. The documentation, the how-tos tutorial are pretty great to have a full tutorial about how to get started with it. On GitHub, we have NGINX Unit with the code, the roadmap, and all the issues. So if you have questions, make sure you jump on GitHub and put it inside the issues section, or send an email to our mailing list. I stream on YouTube about NGINX Unit and all things NGINX regularly. So if you want to do this YouTube algorithm things, you can follow me on Twitter and YouTube for more information about Unit. And I'll do regularly videos on each new release to jump into new features and to announce what's next, what's hot, how you can do it. And if you have any questions about Unit or all things NGINX, just let me know.